Part 5. 3 weeks passed since the incident with Lyra. During that time, Jake's life changed in ways he had not expected. He was still part of Earth's diplomatic security team. But now he spent most of his time working with station security as a special consultant and trainer. The job was harder than he expected. Teaching aliens to recognize human-style threat patterns was like trying to explain color to someone who had only ever seen in black and white. Different species literally saw the world differently. Their brains processed information through different filters shaped by millions of years of evolution on different worlds. The Kelmar, for example, relied heavily on scent. They could smell fear, aggression, and dishonesty through chemical signals that humans could not detect. But they had trouble reading facial expressions and body language. When Jake tried to explain how a person's posture could indicate hostile intent, the Kelmar officers struggled to understand what he meant. The Thoks were even more different. They sensed the world through electrical fields generated by living beings. They could detect heartbeats and nervous system activity from across a room. But they were nearly blind to visual cues that seemed obvious to Jake, so Jake adapted. He worked with each species individually, trying to find common ground. He used video recordings to show examples of suspicious behavior. He created training scenarios where security officers could practice spotting threats. Slowly, very slowly, they began to understand what he was teaching them. Amy helped with the training program. She was better at explaining things than Jake was, more patient with the students who struggled. Together, they made a good team. One afternoon, Jake was reviewing surveillance footage with a group of mixed-species security officers. The footage showed various crowded areas of the station over the past several days. Jake's job was to point out suspicious patterns that the officers might have missed. "There," Jake said, pausing the video. "See those two Gordian merchants near the food court? Watch their eye movements. They keep looking at that Kelmar child playing by the fountain." A Kelmar officer leaned forward, studying the screen. His name was Court, and he had been one of Jake's most dedicated students. "I see them looking. But how do you know this is suspicious? Maybe they just notice a child playing." "Watch how often they look," Jake explained. "Once every 10 to 15 seconds. That is not casual observation. That is surveillance. They are tracking the child's position while pretending to talk to each other." Court's ears twitched as he thought about this. Tracking. Like hunting. "Exactly like hunting," Jake confirmed. "Predators track their prey before they strike. These two are showing the same pattern." Another officer, a Thoks female named Zira, spoke up. Her voice buzzed slightly, translated through a device on her collar. "But we checked the electrical signatures of those merchants. They showed normal stress levels. No heightened aggression or fear. How could they be dangerous?" "Because they are professionals," Amy answered. "They have done this before. They know how to control their reactions. That is why visual observation is so important. Body language is harder to fake than internal biological responses." The training session continued for another hour. When it ended, Court approached Jake with a thoughtful expression on his furry face. "I have been thinking about what you teach us. It is not just about catching criminals. It is about understanding how different species think and act." "Yes," Jake nodded. "That is part of it. Every species evolved to survive different challenges. Humans had to avoid predators and hunt prey on Earth. That shaped how our brains work. Your species evolved differently on your world, so you developed different strengths. Neither way is better. They are just different. But together we see more than any single species could alone," Court said thoughtfully. "That is the real lesson," Jake smiled. "You are learning faster than I expected." Captain Wright appeared in the doorway of the training room. "Morrison Collins, can I see you both for a moment?" They followed her to a smaller office down the hall. Inside, they found Ambassador Stevens waiting with another man Jake did not recognize. The stranger was human, maybe 60 years old, with gray hair and a sharp, intelligent face. He wore a plain suit with no visible insignia or rank. "Jake Morrison, Amy Collins, this is Director Frank Carter from Earth Security Council," Wright said by way of introduction. Carter stood and shook their hands. His grip was firm and professional. "I have been reviewing your work here on Harmony Point. Very impressive. You have probably done more to improve interspecies security cooperation in 3 weeks than we have managed in 3 years." "Thank you, sir," Jake said cautiously. He could tell this was leading somewhere. Carter got straight to the point. "The Security Council wants to expand your training program. We are planning to establish a multi-species security academy. A place where officers from different worlds can learn to work together. We want you two to help run it." Jake and Amy exchanged surprised glances. This was much bigger than teaching a few classes on a space station. "The academy would be on Earth," Carter continued. "We would bring in students from dozens of species. They would learn human threat recognition techniques, along with methods from other species. The goal is to create security professionals who can think across species boundaries." "That is a huge project," Amy said slowly. "We are just field operatives. We are not administrators or educators." "You are exactly what we need," Ambassador Stevens said. "You understand how to communicate across species lines. You have proven you can teach these concepts effectively, and most importantly, you care about doing it right." Carter pulled out a datapad and showed them a proposal. This would be a permanent assignment. Earth government salary, full benefits, housing provided. You would be building something important, something that could save lives across the galaxy. Jake read through the proposal on the screen. It was a generous offer and the work would be meaningful. But it would also mean leaving field work behind, trading action for teaching. He was not sure how he felt about that. "Can we think about it?" he asked. "Of course," Carter said. "Take a few days. Discuss it between yourselves. Let me know when you decide." After the meeting, Jake and Amy walked back to their quarters in silence. Finally, Amy spoke. "What do you think?" "I think it is a good opportunity," Jake said honestly. "But I am not sure I am the right person for it. Teaching is not really my strength." "You have been doing fine these past few weeks," Amy pointed out. "The students respect you. They learn from you, and this is a chance to make a real difference. Not just stopping one crime at a time, but preventing thousands of crimes by training better security professionals." Jake could not argue with that logic, but something still bothered him. What if we miss something important while we are sitting in classrooms? What if another Lyra needs help and we are not there to see it? Amy stopped walking and turned to face him. "Jake, you cannot save everyone personally, but you can teach others to see what you see. You can multiply your impact by sharing your knowledge. Is that not worth something?" That night, Jake could not sleep. He kept thinking about Amy's words. She was right, he knew. One person could only do so much. But training others, teaching them to spot dangers that their own instincts might miss that could save countless lives. He thought about Lyra, safe now with her family. He thought about the other 30 children who had been rescued when the criminal organization was dismantled. He thought about all the future children who would be safer if security forces knew what to look for. The next morning, Jake found Amy at breakfast in the station's cafeteria. She looked as tired as he felt, with dark circles under her green eyes. She had probably spent a sleepless night thinking about the same things. "I am in if you are," Jake said without preamble. Amy looked up from her food and smiled. "I was hoping you would say that." "I already told Director Carter yes," Jake laughed. "You were that sure I would agree?" "I know you," Amy said simply. "You want to help people. This is how we can help the most people." 2 months later, Jake stood in front of the newly constructed Interspecies Security Academy on the outskirts of Seattle. The building was modern and impressive, designed to accommodate students from dozens of different species. Each classroom had adjustable environmental controls for temperature, gravity, and atmosphere. The dormitories were similarly adaptable. The first class of students arrived the following week, 20 beings from 12 different species. They came from law enforcement agencies and security services across known space, all eager to learn new techniques for keeping their people safe. Jake was nervous that first day. He stood at the front of the main classroom, looking at the diverse faces watching him expectantly. How could he possibly teach all these different beings to think like humans? But then he remembered what Court had said back on Harmony Point. It was not about making them think like humans. It was about helping them understand different perspectives, teaching them to see the world through another species' eyes, to recognize patterns that their own evolution had not prepared them for. He started with Lyra's story. He described what he had seen that day, how the Mordaxians' behavior had triggered his instincts even though they had not technically done anything wrong yet. He explained how The store was quiet that night. Jake stood behind the counter looking at his phone. It was almost midnight and the street outside was empty. He worked at this small store to pay for college. The job was boring, but it paid his bills. The door opened with a small bell sound. Jake looked up and saw someone unusual walk in. She was short, maybe 5 feet tall. Her skin was purple and seemed to glow a little under the lights. Her eyes were large and dark. Jake knew she was an alien. He had seen a few aliens in the city since they came to Earth 2 years ago. "Hello?" the alien girl said quietly. Her voice was soft and she seemed nervous. "I need water." "Sure, it's in the back," Jake said with a smile. He tried to be friendly. The city was big and scary for everyone, he thought. It must be even harder for aliens who were new to Earth. The girl walked slowly to the back of the store. She looked at all the bottles and cans with confusion. There were so many choices. On her home planet, things were probably simpler. She reached out and touched the cold glass of the refrigerator door. The bell rang again. 3 men walked in fast. They wore black masks over their faces. Jake's heart started beating fast. He knew what was happening. The first man pulled out a gun. "Give me the money," the man said. His voice was rough and angry. He pointed the gun at Jake. Right now." "Don't do anything stupid," Jake raised his hands. Okay. "No problem," his voice shook a little. He had never been robbed before. The gun looked big and scary. In the back of the store, the alien girl froze. She had never seen violence like this. Her people didn't have crime like this. They had solved these problems long ago. But Earth was different. Earth was dangerous. She felt her heart beating fast in her chest. "Hey, there's an alien back there," the second man said. He saw her purple skin glowing in the dark. "Get over here where we can see you." The girl walked forward slowly. Her hands were shaking. She was more scared than she had ever been in her life. On her planet, people didn't hurt each other. They talked about problems. They didn't use weapons. This was like a nightmare. "What do you have?" the first man asked her. He moved the gun toward her. "You aliens have fancy stuff. Give it to me." "I don't have anything," she said. Her voice was very quiet. "Please, I don't want trouble. I just wanted water." The third man laughed. It was a mean laugh. "Maybe her people will pay to get her back. We could make a lot of money." "Good idea," the second man said. "Grab her. We'll take her with us." Jake felt something change inside him. He was scared of the gun. He was scared of getting hurt. But watching these men threaten the girl made him angry. She hadn't done anything wrong. She was just trying to buy water. This wasn't fair. "Leave her alone," Jake said. His voice was stronger now. "She's not part of this. Just take the money and go." "Shut up," the first man said. He turned the gun toward Jake. "You want to be a hero? Heroes get shot." But Jake had already made his choice. He didn't think about it too much. He just knew he couldn't stand there and watch. Under the counter, he pressed the silent alarm button. The police would come. He just needed to buy time. He grabbed a bottle from the shelf next to him. It was heavy, full of energy drink. He threw it as hard as he could at the nearest man. The bottle hit the second man in the face. He fell backward and yelled bad words. The store exploded into chaos. Everyone started moving at once. "You stupid kid," the first man screamed. He fired his gun. The sound was so loud it hurt Jake's ears. The bullet hit the wall behind the counter. Pieces of plastic and paper fell down like snow. The alien girl screamed. It was a high, scared sound. She had never heard a gun before. Her people didn't have weapons like this. She didn't know what to do. "Stay down," Jake yelled at her. He was behind the counter now, hiding. His hands were shaking and his heart felt like it would explode. But his mind was clear. He knew what he had to do. Keep them busy. Keep them away from the girl. Give the police time to come. The third man ran toward the alien girl. He grabbed her thin arm hard. "You're coming with us, freak." Jake couldn't see what happened next, but he heard cans falling. He had pushed a whole shelf over from behind the counter. The cans crashed down on the man. He let go of the girl and stepped back. "Run," Jake shouted to the girl. "Back door. Through the storage room." The girl didn't wait. She ran fast toward the back of the store. Her legs were short, but she was quick. The first man fired his gun again, but he missed. The bullet broke the glass on the refrigerator. The second man pulled out his own gun. "I'm going to kill you." Jake grabbed more bottles and threw them. He wasn't trying to aim carefully. He just wanted to keep them busy. The men ducked and moved around. They were angry now, and that made them sloppy. "You're dead," the first man yelled. He started walking toward the counter. Then the front window broke. Glass went everywhere. Someone outside was shouting, "Police! Drop your weapons! Drop them now!" The 3 men panicked. They hadn't expected the police to come so fast. The first man shot toward the broken window. then turned and ran toward the back of the store. The other two followed him. They were running away. Jake jumped over the counter. He didn't think about it. He just ran after them. The alien girl was back there. She was in danger. He burst through the storage room door. The girl was trying to open the back door, but she couldn't work the lock. Her hands didn't know how human locks worked. "Move," the first man yelled. He was right behind Jake, his gun up. Jake didn't move. He stood between the man and the girl. He spread his arms wide. It was crazy. It was stupid. The man had a gun and Jake had nothing. Every part of his brain told him to move, to get out of the way, to save himself. He didn't move. "You'll have to shoot me first," Jake said. His voice was calm even though he was terrified inside. "You're not touching her." The man and Jake looked at each other. The gun was shaking in the man's hand. His finger was on the trigger. Behind Jake, the girl finally got the door open. Cold air rushed in. "Police, freeze!" Officers ran into the storage room with their guns out. The robber pushed past Jake hard and ran out the back door. His friends followed him. Then the room was full of police. Jake fell against the wall. His legs felt weak. His whole body was shaking. He had just risked his life for a stranger. For an alien he didn't even know. The alien girl stood in the doorway. Lights from police cars flashed red and blue behind her. She looked at Jake for a long moment. Then she ran forward and hugged him tight. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was breaking. "Thank you so much. You saved me." Jake hugged her back awkwardly. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" She shook her head. "No, because of you." She looked up at him with her big eyes. "You could have died." "Why did you do that?" Jake didn't know how to explain it. How could he tell her about the feeling inside him that said some things were worth fighting for? That you couldn't just stand by and watch someone get hurt? "Because it was right," he said finally. Around them, police officers were everywhere. They were asking questions and taking pictures. But for a moment, Jake and the alien girl just stood there. Two people from different worlds, brought together by one scary night and one choice to do the right thing. The police station was busy and bright. Jake sat in a hard plastic chair with a blanket around his shoulders. He wasn't cold, but the police gave it to him anyway. The alien girl sat next to him. Her name was Ziria. She held a cup of hot tea that a nice police officer had made for her. Detective Lisa Grant sat down across from them. She looked tired. Her eyes said she had seen too many bad things in her job. But she was kind when she talked to them. "Let me understand this right," she said, looking at her notes. 3 men came into the store at 11:47. They had guns. They wanted money. Then they threatened Ziria. "And Jake, you fought back even though you had no weapon?" "I threw some bottles," Jake said. The whole thing still felt weird and unreal. I wouldn't call it fighting. "You put yourself between a man with a gun and an innocent person," the detective said firmly. "That's either very brave or very crazy. Maybe both. Did you catch them?" Ziria asked softly. Her translator chip made her words clear, but her voice was still scared. The detective's face got darker. "We caught 2 of them. They didn't get far. But the leader, the one with the gun who threatened you both, he got away. We have people looking for him, but—" She didn't finish the sentence. Jake felt Ziria get tense next to him. "So he's still out there?" "I don't think you're in danger," Detective Grant said quickly. "These were random robberies, not planned attacks. These guys aren't smart enough to plan revenge." But even as she said it, Jake could tell she wasn't totally sure. And he knew from watching the news that scared criminals could do unpredictable things. What nobody knew yet was that the story was already spreading far beyond the police station. Officer Kevin Brooks had been one of the first police to arrive. His body camera had recorded everything. He saw Jake standing in front of Ziria, facing down a man with a gun. The video was now evidence in the case. But Kevin also had a brother named Danny who worked at the United Nations office that dealt with aliens. The next morning at breakfast, Kevin told Danny the story about the college kid who risked his life for an alien stranger. Danny listened carefully. The alien exchange program was his department's job. Any problem with an exchange visitor came to his desk. By noon, he had written a report for his bosses. By afternoon, the report went to the Galactic Council's Earth office, and by evening the report reached Ziria's home planet. The news hit her world like a bomb. The people of her planet were peaceful. They had worried a lot about sending their people to Earth. Earth had violence and crime and danger. Many people had said, no, don't send anyone. They said humans were too dangerous, too primitive, too unpredictable. But then came the story of Jake Morrison, a 22-year-old college student working for minimum wage. He risked everything to protect one of their people. They watched the body camera video over and over. Scientists studied his actions. They looked at his choices. They studied the moment when he decided to stand between danger and an innocent person. Ambassador Talric saw what this meant. He was old. His skin was deep indigo blue, which showed his many years. He had wanted his people to work with humans even when others said no. He believed humans had great potential. This changes everything, he told his staff as they watched the video again. For months, the council heard only bad stories about humans. Human violence, human wars, human cruelty, and now we have this. Proof that humans can be incredibly selfless. It's just one human, his assistant said. One story, one human, Talrix agreed. But what a human. Look at him. He has no training, no weapons, no advantages. Every logical thought should have told him to hide and stay safe. But he chose to act. That's the important word, chose. When his instincts said save yourself, he chose to protect another person. He turned to his communications director. I want this story shared with every world in the Galactic Council. I want them to see what humans can do. And I want a group prepared to travel to Earth. We're going to honor this Jake Morrison the right way. Sir, that might be too fast, another aide said carefully. We don't know everything yet. Maybe he was trying to get something from this. Get what? Talric said sharply. A reward? He's a student working at night in a dangerous area. He has no money, romance. He never met Ziria before. Fame? He was alone with every reason to hide. No, this was pure moral choice, the kind our people say humans don't have. He made a decision that would affect multiple star systems. Get me a call to the Earth office. And someone find out everything about this Jake Morrison. If humans can produce people like him, maybe we've been wrong about them. Back in New York, Jake had no idea about any of this. He finally got home to his tiny apartment. His roommate Chris had heard about the robbery on the news. He hugged Jake hard and said a lot of curse words that somehow sounded both worried and impressed. Man, what were you thinking? Chris asked. You could have been killed. I wasn't really thinking, Jake admitted. He fell onto their old couch. It just happened. I saw her scared and I couldn't let them take her. Chris shook his head. Dude, you're either the bravest guy I know or the dumbest. Maybe both. It was something people would say many times in the next few days. They would say it on different worlds in different languages that Jake couldn't speak. But right now Jake was exhausted. He just wanted to sleep. He had a chemistry test in 2 days and he hadn't studied enough, and rent was due next week. Life kept going even after you played hero. He had no idea his life was about to change in ways he couldn't imagine. The video kept spreading. On Earth, news channels played it over and over. On other planets, billions of aliens watched the human who stood up for one of their people. People argued about what it meant. Some said Jake represented the best of humanity. Others said he was just one person and didn't prove anything. But the Galactic Council was watching. They were having serious conversations about Earth, about humans, about whether this young species was ready to join them among the stars, and it all came down to one night. One scared girl, one college student, and one choice to do the right thing, even when it was dangerous. Jake slept that night with no idea that he had just changed human history. He dreamed of the robbery, of the gun, of Ziria's scared face. He woke up sweating and checked his phone. It was full of messages from numbers he didn't know. Chris was already up making coffee. You're famous, man. It's all over social media. People are calling you a hero. I'm not a hero, Jake said. I just did what anyone should do. That's exactly why people are calling you a hero, Chris said. Because you think anyone would do it. But they wouldn't. Most people would have hidden. Jake didn't know what to say to that. He drank his coffee and tried not to think about the man with the gun. The man who was still out there somewhere. Outside, news vans were starting to park on his street. Reporters with cameras were setting up. Someone had found out where he lived. His phone rang. It was an unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Is this Jake Morrison? An official-sounding voice asked. Yes, Jake said carefully. This is the State Department. We need to talk to you about a ceremony. The Galactic Council wants to honor you. Can you come to our office today? Jake looked at Chris with wide eyes. His roommate mouthed the words, "What's happening?" Jake's hand was shaking as he held the phone. "The Galactic Council? Like the actual alien government?" "Yes, sir. They want to give you an award. This is very important. Can you come in today?" Jake sat down hard. His life had just gotten a lot more complicated. 3 days later, Jake's life was definitely not normal anymore. It started with news crews everywhere. The police tried to keep his name secret, but someone leaked it. By morning, there were vans with satellite dishes outside his apartment building. Reporters with perfect hair and bright smiles tried to stop him on his way to class. Jake Morrison. How does it feel to be a hero? Did you think about dying before you acted? Some people say you represent human-alien friendship. What do you think?" Jake pushed through them with his hood up. He kept his head down and said, "No comment," like people did in movies. It felt stupid. He threw some bottles and stood in a doorway. That didn't make him special. It just made him someone who had a really bad night at work. But the story had become huge. Social media was full of arguments about him. Some people praised him. They said he showed the best of humanity. Others criticized him. They said he risked his life for no good reason. The money in that register wasn't worth dying for, they said. Some conspiracy people even said the whole thing was fake, set up by the government to make aliens trust humans. Jake tried to ignore it all and focus on his chemistry test, but his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages, friend requests, and interview offers kept coming. Chris thought it was funny and kept reading the crazy comments out loud. "Listen to this one," Chris said, laughing. "This proves humans have natural protective instincts that make us valuable for galactic security." "Dude, you're like an alien bodyguard now." "I'm a college student who works at a store," Jake said tiredly. "Or worked. I'm probably fired." He was wrong about that. The store owner, Mr. Patel, called that morning. He said Jake could take all the time off he needed. His job would be waiting when he was ready. Apparently the publicity was good for business. People kept coming to see where it happened, and they bought stuff while they were there. The really weird part came on the 4th day. Jake was trying to write a late essay about chemistry when someone knocked on his door. Chris was at class, so Jake answered it himself. 2 people in crisp black suits stood there. They looked very official and serious. Behind them was Ziria. She looked nervous but also excited. "Mr. Morrison," the taller one said, showing credentials too fast to read. "I'm Agent Phillips from the State Department. This is Agent Rodriguez. Can we come in?" Jake thought maybe he was in trouble. He also thought his apartment was a mess and he should have washed the dishes. But he let them in anyway. His mind was racing. Had they caught the robbers? Was this about court testimony? "Is everything okay?" he asked as they stood in his small living room. His furniture wasn't nice enough for professional government visitors. "Everything is fine," Phillips said with a smile that looked practiced. "Better than fine, actually. The Galactic Council has made an unusual request." Ziria stepped forward. Her skin was flickering with what Jake now knew meant excitement. "They want to honor you," she said warmly. "My people, the whole Galactic Council, they've been watching the news about what you did, and they want to meet you," Jake blinked. "Meet me, like officially?" "Like a formal ceremony at the United Nations," Rodriguez explained. "Ambassador Talrix himself is coming from my home planet just for this. It's unprecedented, Mr. Morrison. The Galactic Council has never honored a single human before." The words felt unreal. Jake sat down heavily on his couch. "Why? I mean, I didn't really do anything special. Anyone would have done the same thing." "That's where you're wrong," Phillips said gently. "Not everyone would have. That's exactly why this matters. Since first contact, there's been a lot of debate in the Galactic Council about humanity. Some species think we're too violent, too primitive, too dangerous to join their alliance fully. Your actions," Rodriguez continued, "show a different story. You showed altruism. You showed courage. You showed moral conviction under pressure. Those are qualities the Council values highly." Ziria knelt beside the couch. Her big eyes looked into Jake's. "You saved my life," she said softly. "My people want to thank you. But more than that, they want other humans to see that these actions matter, that this is the kind of behavior that will help your world earn respect among the stars." Jake rubbed his face. He felt overwhelmed. "I don't know if I'm the right person for this. I'm just a regular guy. I work retail and I'm barely passing chemistry." "You're a guy who stood up when it mattered," Phillips said. "That's all anyone can ask. The ceremony is in 3 days. You don't have to come, but I should tell you the president herself wants to be there. This is important for human-alien relations. After the agents left, Jake sat quiet for a long time. He stared at the paper they gave him about the ceremony. His phone was already buzzing with new messages. News about the UN ceremony had leaked within minutes. When Chris came home, Jake told him everything. His roommate's reaction was excited as expected. Dude, you're going to meet actual alien ambassadors. At the UN. Do you know how crazy that is? I'm terrified, Jake admitted. What if I mess up? What if I say something stupid and cause an interstellar incident? Chris patted his shoulder. Then you'll be the guy who saved an alien and then accidentally insulted her whole species. Still a better story than most people have. Jake couldn't help but laugh. Maybe Chris was right. He'd already done the hard part, the part where he risked his life. Standing on a stage and accepting thanks seemed easy compared to that. That night, Jake tried to sleep but couldn't. A week ago, his biggest worries were rent and passing his classes. Now he was apparently representing humanity's better nature to a galaxy full of watching civilizations. It was scary. It was absurd. And despite everything, part of him felt honored by it. He just hoped he wouldn't trip walking up to the stage. The next morning, more reporters were outside. This time Jake stopped and talked to them briefly. He kept it simple. I'm honored by this recognition, he said into a dozen microphones. But I hope people understand that I'm not special. There are millions of humans who help each other every day. I just happened to be in the right place to help someone who needed it. Are you nervous about meeting the Galactic Council? A reporter asked. Very nervous, Jake admitted honestly, but also excited. I hope I can represent Earth well. What will you say to them? Jake thought about it. I'll probably just say thank you, and that humans are trying our best. We're not perfect, but we're working on it. The clip went viral immediately. People liked his honesty. They liked that he seemed humble and a little scared. He didn't act like a hero. He acted like a regular person who was in over his head, which was exactly what he was. Zaria visited that afternoon. She brought food from her planet, strange fruits that tasted like nothing Jake had ever experienced. They sat in his small apartment and talked. Are you ready for the ceremony? She asked. No, Jake said honestly. I don't think I'll ever be ready. But I'll do it anyway. That's very human, Zaria said with what might have been a smile. Her people didn't smile the same way, but Jake was learning to read her expressions. Doing things even when you're scared. Is that not normal for other species? Jake asked. My people removed fear through evolution and technology, she explained. We don't feel it the same way you do. Most species in the council are similar. Fear is seen as primitive, but watching you that night I understood something. Fear makes your choice more meaningful. You were terrified, but you acted anyway. That's not primitive. That's incredible. Jake had never thought about it that way. I guess so. They talked for hours. Jake learned about her planet, about the Galactic Council, about the thousands of worlds out there among the stars. And Zaria learned about Earth, about humanity's struggles and hopes and dreams. By the time she left, Jake felt a little better, a little more ready. The ceremony was coming. The whole galaxy would be watching. And Jake Morrison, ordinary college student, would have to find the words to represent 7 billion humans. No pressure. The United Nations General Assembly Hall was bigger than Jake imagined. Huge curved rows of seats rose up in tiers. Each one had a flag and nameplate of a member nation. But today, mixed in with Earth's country flags, were symbols Jake didn't recognize. They were the official emblems of Galactic Council worlds, shown through holographic projection. Jake stood backstage in a suit the State Department gave him. His hands were sweating, even though the air conditioning was on. He'd met Ambassador Talrix an hour ago. The ambassador was surprisingly gentle. His deep blue skin and wise eyes made Jake feel calm. The ambassador thanked him quietly before the official ceremony. Nervous? Zaria appeared beside him. She wore formal robes from her home world. The fabric seemed to shimmer with captured light. Terrified, Jake admitted. There are probably 1 billion people watching this, right? More, Zaria said with a small smile. This is being broadcast to 17 council worlds. But don't worry, they already like you. You just have to be yourself. Agent Phillips came over with a headset and a nod. You're on in 2 minutes, Jake. Remember, just speak from your heart. No one expects a perfect speech. The lights in the hall dimmed. Everyone got quiet. Jake could see Secretary General Chen at the podium. Her voice was amplified as she spoke to everyone. Today we gather to recognize an act that goes beyond borders, species, and worlds, she began. In a moment of crisis, one young man made a choice that shows the values we all want to have: courage, compassion, and commitment to protecting the innocent. Jake walked onto the stage. His legs felt weird and far away. The applause was overwhelming. It echoed through the huge chamber. He saw faces turned toward him: diplomats, journalists, humans, and aliens watching. The attention made his head spin, but then he saw something that helped. In the front row, his mother sat next to Chris. His mom was crying happy tears with her hand over her mouth. She'd flown in from Ohio without telling him. She wanted to surprise him. Seeing her familiar face in this crazy place made everything feel real and manageable. Ambassador Talrix came to the podium. His translator made his words clear English. I speak for the Galactic Council when I say Jake Morrison has shown us something we needed to see. There has been much debate about humanity's place in our alliance. Some questioned whether your species is ready for the responsibilities of joining the stars. He paused, letting his words settle. Jake Morrison answered that question with his actions. When faced with danger, he could have hidden. When faced with violence, he could have run away. When faced with a choice between personal safety and moral duty, he chose duty. This is not primitive behavior. This is the mark of true civilization. The ambassador held up a crystal object that seemed to contain swirling light. The Order of the Sheltering Wing is the Galactic Council's highest civilian honor. It is given only to those who risk themselves to protect others. In 15,000 years of council history, it has been awarded just 43 times. Jake Morrison, you are the first human to receive this recognition. Jake stepped forward on shaking legs. Talrix put a ribbon around his neck. The crystal touched his chest and got warm immediately, like it was responding to his heartbeat. The applause was deafening. Then came the part Jake dreaded most: his speech. He looked at the teleprompter where professional speechwriters prepared careful words about human-alien cooperation and shared values. He ignored it completely. I'm not a hero, Jake said. His voice was amplified through the hall. I'm really not. I'm a 22-year-old guy who barely knows what he's doing most of the time. I work retail, I'm in debt, and I'm pretty sure I'm failing chemistry. Surprised laughter rippled through the assembly. This definitely wasn't the prepared speech. But when I saw Zaria in danger, I didn't think about being a hero. I didn't think about humanity's reputation or interstellar relations or any of the big, important stuff everyone's talking about now. I just thought, she's scared and someone needs to help her, that's it. That's the whole thought process. He looked directly at the holographic representatives from Council Worlds. I guess what I'm trying to say is that protecting each other, caring about each other even when we're different, that's not some special human quality. That's not something we do because we're trying to impress you or prove we're civilized enough for your club. It's just what decent people do. Or should do anyway. Jake took a breath, feeling more confident. There are 7 billion humans on this planet. Yeah, a lot of them are messed up. We fight. We hurt each other. We do stupid and terrible things. But there are also millions of people doing what I did every single day. Firefighters running into burning buildings. Teachers spending their own money on school supplies. Strangers helping strangers because it's the right thing to do. He touched the crystal on his chest. So I'll accept this honor, but not just for me. For every human who's ever made the harder choice. For everyone who stands up when it's easier to stay down. We're not perfect and we've got a long way to go, but we're trying, and maybe that's enough to start with. The silence after his words lasted just a heartbeat. Then the applause came back, even louder than before. Jake saw tears on his mother's face, and pride on Chris's. He saw Ambassador Talrix nodding with approval, his skin flickering with colors Jake knew meant deep emotion. But what struck him most was Zaria's expression. The young alien woman looked at him with something like wonder, as if he'd just explained. Something deep that she'd been struggling to understand about humanity. In the days after, Jake's speech was analyzed, shared, and debated across multiple worlds. Some critics said he was too modest. He undersold humanity's achievements, they said. Others praised his honesty as refreshing compared to typical diplomatic talk. But the speech's real impact became clear 3 weeks later. The Galactic Council announced a big expansion of the cultural exchange program. The restrictions on human participation in council activities were quietly loosened. Discussions began about Earth's eventual path to full membership. Ambassador Talrix explained it to Jake during a private dinner in New York, just before the ambassador returned home. "You gave them a glimpse of humanity's heart," the elder alien said. "Not a polished diplomatic version. The real thing. Flawed, uncertain, but fundamentally decent. That was more valuable than any prepared speech could have been." Jake still wasn't comfortable being the face of humanity. He returned to his classes, to his apartment, to a life that was recognizably his own, but things had changed in small ways. He got a scholarship from an anonymous donor that covered his remaining tuition. Job offers poured in, though he decided to finish his degree first, and Ziria became a real friend. She visited often, teaching him about her culture while he introduced her to pizza, baseball, and terrible action movies. Through her, he met other exchange participants. He found himself an informal ambassador to these visitors trying to understand Earth. One evening, sitting on a bench in Central Park as the sun set over the city, Ziria asked him something that had been on her mind. "Do you regret it? Not the ceremony or attention, but that night. Knowing you could have been killed, do you wish you'd made a different choice?" Jake thought about it seriously. He watched joggers and cyclists pass by, humanity going about its ordinary, extraordinary life. "No," he said finally. "I don't regret it. Yeah, I was scared. Yeah, it was stupid and dangerous, but I look at what came from it. Not just the ceremony, but everything after. The conversation starting, the barriers coming down. If me being scared for a few minutes helps humans and aliens understand each other better, how could I regret that?" He smiled at her. "Besides, I made a good friend. That alone would have been worth it." Ziria's skin flickered with warm colors. It was like blushing for her people. "My people have a saying. The measure of a person is found in the space between fear and action. You closed that space, Jake. You showed that humans could, too." As darkness fell over the park, Jake thought about how one moment, one choice in a cramped store on a dangerous street, had rippled out to touch multiple worlds. He never planned to be a hero. He never wanted to represent anything beyond himself, but maybe that was exactly why it mattered.